And there was quite a lot of people there actually, and like whole people.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Autism Society of Florida's support group. My name is Felicia and I help run the Autism Society of Florida's parent support group. We normally do them on the first Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. And tonight we have two speakers. And the first speaker, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce her. Her name is Margie Hedlund, and she is a mother of identical 13-year-old twin boys with autism. Margie's boys previously attended Broward schools. She currently homeschools her son Dalton, while her other son Martin attends a private school. Margie is on the board of the Autism Society of Florida and a law enforcement trainer, where she educates officers across the state on how to serve and protect our citizens with autism. Before Margie gets started, I just want to refer everybody, please follow the Autism Society of Florida's Facebook page, Instagram, and Twitter. The website is www.autismfl.org. And Margie's going to go ahead and get started, and I'm so excited. Thank you all for coming.
Hi, everybody. My name is Margie Hedlund, and currently I'm homeschooling one of my sons, Dalton. And I wanted to share with you sort of how that's going for me and some things I've learned, and hopefully something that I've learned might help you or spark something in you. So here we go. This is Homeschooling Dalton with Miss Margie. So this is just to show you how beautiful my children are. This is Dalton and this is Martin. Martin currently attends Lighthouse Christian School, and Dalton is the one who I'm homeschooling. Okay, things that are very important to Dalton are a schedule and a planner. So this is our giant whiteboard, which you can see over my shoulder here. We're all ready for tomorrow. Every day I change that, and as we complete a subject, Dalton crosses it off the list. This gives him that great sense of accomplishment. I don't set times for our subjects. Depends on what we're doing and how he's doing, but we always start school at 8:15. We also use a planner. It's a standard planner where he can write everything down in it. Again, he loves lists, so for him to start off his morning with writing everything down just gets him in a good space. And I can go back and look at what we did since we erase this board all the time. All right, so flexibility is really key with Dalton. If a subject is stressing him on any given day, I move on. I don't give up, but I move on. There's no sense continuing with something that's upsetting him, or he's not in the right frame of mind, or maybe he's just not into science on that particular day. I move on. He likes large projects, so we do a lot of big scale things like reports, social studies, studying explorers or science. We get out the microscope. We have a microscope. He likes things that last over a period of time. We like to get out of the house and go on field trips, which nobody's doing right now. So we do virtual field trips. There are so many resources out there if you just Google virtual field trips, and you can go almost anywhere. We go to Publix. When we were learning about money, I took him through the line at Publix. We used coupons. He used the debit card. We used cash. So we had fun, got to pick up the groceries, and he learned a little something. His workspaces. So he does have an area set up in his bedroom. It's pictured there on the left. So he's in there for independent work, a sense of doing it on his own. I try not to hover over him all the time. The dining room table is what he works with Miss Margie. And yes, he calls me Miss Margie, and then he calls me Mom after school's over. Depending on the subject and his mood and how much space we need is where we work. We also go outside into the backyard. We have a patio, and a table out there. And if it's a beautiful day, we'll go outside and do our work. Our library, IKEA. I'm a big fan of IKEA. So these are just the books he's collected over the years, but when we have library time or we go to pick out a book, we'll come sit on this couch, pick out a book. We might use some of these books for reference. It's just fun. Our cubbies. I don't have a really big house, so this is sort of a corner in the TV room where we have his books, we have drawers for his different subjects, paper, anything right there, and I can put it away so at the end of the day I don't have school supplies all over my house. So I love IKEA. These are some of the printable resources that I've fallen in love with. CommonCourseSheets.com, SuperTeacherWorksheets.com. They're both free and you can customize them. You can make 10 questions, 20 questions, whatever you want to do. They're just great resources. A writing journal. So Dalton has a hard time with retelling, excuse me. So for his writing journal, I don't know if you can see, but the subjects are all things that would make him happy. What's my favorite ride at Disney World? What's my favorite food? What's my favorite thing to do? If I give him topics that are fun, he writes better. And then I can worry about sentence structure and all those good things, but I can get him going on a subject that he likes. So that works really well for us. Find curriculum that works for you. This is my second year homeschooling, and it took me a little bit. I found Sadler from actually my other son's school. I love the way they do vocabulary because they start off with a story. So there's a little reading comprehension, sort of putting the words in the real world. I love them. You might not, but find what works for you and always get the teacher edition because at least for me, I don't know as much as I thought I did, and it's a lot easier on me to have the teacher edition. Just a little hint there. Specials. So we have an art cart. Again, I don't have a big house. So I picked this thing up with a good coupon at Michael's, and it has markers and paint and stencils and paper. And I store it in my bedroom, and we bring it out when it's time to do art. Keeps everything organized. Again, not all over my house. And we can take it out to the patio, the kitchen table, wherever we're working that day, and then when we're done, everything goes back in the art cart. Again, it's a space saver and makes him happy to see the art cart. So this is something that I got from one of my teachers when Dalton was in elementary school, and I still use it. These are little plastic fraction panels. And again, Dalton is so much better at tactile things, at holding things, than he is at just verbalizing. So we use these a lot for math. There's also like, this is for another one for fractions like this. They make them for decimals and percentages. You can get them at Amazon. They're not very expensive at all. And it's just an easier way for me to do math. Sort of like when we do money, I use real money. And with anything else, if he has something in his hand, he finds it easier. Maybe that's the same thing with your kiddo. Okay, this is one of my favorite things. These are reading comprehension cubes. So if Dalton reads a story, or we read a story together, and then I ask him questions, you know, I get the stare, or I get him looking up, or I have to prompt him 3 or 4 times, and I don't want to keep giving him prompts. But if you give him one of these squishy dice, and we're playing a game, and he rolls the dice, and it lands on how did the story end, well, now it's fun. So he'll tell me how the story ended. How did the setting affect the story? What happened to the beginning of the story? It's fun, and they're also squishy, so you can use them as stress balls. 2 purposes. I got them at Oriental Training. They were $15. They also make these other dice down here that are photoed that are picture dice. So you would roll out the dice, and there'd be a variety of pictures, and then you would have your kiddo tell a story from the pictures he sees. That's fun. It's good critical thinking. And again, you're working, but you're having fun. And that just works good with Dalton. So these are WH and How cards. Dalton's SLP helped me make these. And it's literally just the typed word and then a few little hints to the side like who, person, pet, why, because, and cut them out, laminated them. And again, if he has them in his hand or I can hand them to him, he tends to respond better. It's just that little thing. And with whys, I would ask Dalton, why did the boy jump on his bike? And he would look at me and look at me. I know he knew. If I just said, because, that opened it up for him and he went, okay, and he would finish the rest of the sentence. So the same thing works, just hand in these little cards. It works great, and you can make them on your computer. Specials for PE, use what you have. This is what I have. I have a trampoline in the backyard, I have a pool, and for those rainy days, we had to get a trampoline to put in the house. Right now, even parks aren't open. You can't get on the equipment, and that's hard. So whatever it is you have in your backyard, maybe you don't have a pool, maybe you have a little wading pool, you have a tetherball, you have a volleyball court, whatever you have, just use it to get outside and be creative. All right, so Fun Fridays. We do structured education Monday through Thursdays. Fridays we leave for if we need to finish something up or maybe a small field trip. And right now, because we can't do field trips, we do educational movies, and then he writes a story about the movie. Now, it doesn't have to be a historical movie. You can teach a kid a social emotional lesson about friendship, forgiveness. I mean, so many other things our kids need to get by in this world, except for, the basics, Common Core. Everyone's Hero is one of his favorite movies. It's about baseball. It's a cartoon. So since he liked that movie, I thought, okay, well, let's watch 42. Here's a movie with some history, but it's baseball. And then he writes about it. And we just make it fun. One last thing I wanted to show you. These are little reward cards. I don't use these as much anymore. He's 13, but sometimes I have to pull them out. And, it just has the little tick boxes. If you do 10 good things, you get the reward. So maybe it's, 10 times of doing your math worksheet without complaining, and we'll have a special snack, or we'll go out to lunch. We would go out to lunch once a week before the world changed, something like that, just to make it fun through school. I think the key is find out what makes your kid happy and then trick them into learning. Whatever they enjoy, you can make it a learning experience. I mean, just about anything you can do. And the great thing about homeschooling for me is I know my kid. I know him better than anybody. And I think I'm doing an okay job at finding out what makes him happy and then working on getting a little education in there. If you go to our website, which is autismfl.org, you'll find me, you'll find my email address. If you want to ask me anything, if you want to share an idea that you have that you think might help me, I love it when people share with me, or you have any questions, please just reach out to me. And I really hope that something I said here struck a chord with you, or gave you an idea, or gave you a better idea. I hope to hear from you guys.
What would you say is the most challenging thing doing homeschooling at home for you and Dalton?
Keeping him engaged with other friends. We do play dates. I've been a room mom for 11 years. I'm a professional room mom, and I keep in contact with all the kids. We actually meet my son's school at PE time at the park, and he's allowed to participate. So making sure that you have outside influences with other kids, find that co-op in your area, other parents that are homeschooling, or, find a church or a community center that maybe has something going on during the day, but getting him out of the house on field trips and just making sure he has other kids around him. That's the hardest part. We use the Gardner Scholarship. That's how I fund all the cool things I do with him. And like Gardner has a support group and other parents that are in the area that are using Gardner that maybe their kids at home. I found people in my area. And of course I found them all once COVID got here. So, we have to wait, but yeah, reaching out and finding things for them to do is definitely important. And most community centers have activities. But again, right now with COVID, everything's so hard. But you know what? Like I take him to Publix and he thinks it's, fun scanning items, but I'm tricking him and I'm teaching him math and I'm teaching him tax and I'm teaching him to be polite to the cashier and manners. And, we find ways to learn things everywhere we go.
Patricia wanted to know, is there a process to formally request from the district to homeschool?
Absolutely. And I was just teaching this to another one of my dear friends, Kelly. Yes. So it's an incredibly simple process. It's a letter of intent. and there is a form letter. You basically send a letter to the home education program that says, I intend to homeschool my child. You provide their name, date of birth, your home address, you're done. And if you're going to use something like Gardner, you have to have that letter of intent in, because you have to prove that you're not in, you know, a general education school or a private school. And then once you're done, we're all here in Florida. Florida is a pretty cut and dry law with this. There's also another form letter, and it has 2 boxes on it. And you need to find a teacher who has a certificate in the state of Florida to teach the grade that your child is in. And they literally check 2 boxes. Dalton has made gains, check. Dalton should move forward, check. You're done. Now, the school district in Broward County, at least, requires you to keep a portfolio of your child's work for 2 years. They say that during those 2 years, they can come knock on your door and ask to see your child's portfolio. And anybody that's had a kid in an EC program, we know what the portfolio is, the example of works. So you don't have to save everything your kid does, but show the skill sets, the gains, because theoretically they could look at that. And once you file intent to homeschool, you don't ever have to do it again. So I did it last year. I didn't have to do it this year. You're done until you tell your local school board that you're now coming back to school.
I'm going to actually also introduce Lori Malley, who also, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She's a certified licensed school psychologist. She's a mother of 2 children, an 8-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son who has autism and pandas. Her son is currently in 6th grade and has been homeschooled since the middle of his 3rd grade year. So I'm going to let her share her success stories with us. I'm going to ask her to unmute.
Hi, hello everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
So it's funny, Margie, listening to you talk, you hit on some really wonderful points that, you know, are the same for us. One of the big things that you said was being flexible, and that is so huge for us, you know, in terms of scheduling. You know, one of the big things you mentioned, and I'm gonna kind of talk a little bit about, you know, strategies in particular that are helpful for children with autism for homeschooling, and specifically children who may have some behavioral difficulties, because my son does. So, you know, some of the things that we do, I'll kind of talk about some of those strategies and what it can look like. And it can look different, you know, for every child. But, you know, one of the things, Margie, that you mentioned that I think is really important that we do as well as a schedule, you know, having that visual schedule for, you know, the child, so they know what to expect. So my son knows, and we also use the marker board. So I thought it was funny when you mentioned about that, because we do the same. And we do have times on ours, but we're flexible with it. So typically his day, school day is like 10 to 2. That's what we're doing now, at least. So now it looks a little bit different than previous years. But right now, so it's about 10 to 2, and then we put the subjects in there. We build in breaks. I think that's really important. He knows what's expected of him. He knows from this time he's going to be doing math. But then he knows when he's done with that, he has like a 15-minute break to do whatever he wants to do. You know, lunchtime he has in there. So we kind of schedule that whole time, that 10 to 2 time for him. And one of the big things that I think a lot of children with autism, particularly children who struggle with behavioral difficulties, what I think is helpful for them is them being involved in coming up with that schedule. So whether it be you're giving them choices, do you want to do math first or you want to do science first? Or they're writing the schedule, or, you know, if they're younger, they're drawing pictures for the schedule. So getting them involved in some way, you know, allows for that buy-in, and they're more likely going to be able to, you know, going to follow that schedule if they've been part of it and they've had some control over creating it. Let's see, what else? A big thing that we use that I think is important, particularly for those children who struggle, you know, with either motivation or behavioral difficulties, is using some kind of token system. What you're going to use is going to look different depending on, you know, what the difficulties are or how old your child is. But for us, my son's on a point system, and, you know, he knows exactly what's expected of him in terms of doing his schoolwork, different things. Like, he's got some anxiety, OCD things. So when he fights his stuff, you know, he gets points for that. When he does his schoolwork, he gets points. So he's on kind of like a point system where, you know, he picks something out that he really wants, like a Lego set or something like that. And we take the amount it is and we times it by 5. And those are the amount of points he needs to get. So it'll take, you know, time to get there. And he gets points for those different things. And he knows exactly what's expected of him, what he can do to get those points. And it really helps him stay motivated, because motivation is definitely, that definitely can be, you know, an issue. Let's see. And then, so, you know, if you're setting up some kind of token system, so for him, you know, it's the points and he doesn't get the reward for a long time. But, you know, there was a time when he was younger, you know, where we did more of like a token board where, you know, and some kids might need something more like that. Like, if you're really trying to keep your child on task to finish an assignment, they may need the reinforcement more often. So it could be like a little token board where there's like 4 or 5 boxes. And, you know, when, you know, for every, I don't know, a certain amount of time that they're on task, or it could be random. You just, you know, you see that they're working hard. Oh, I love how you're working so hard, you know, in your science work. You just got to check, you know, and when they get their 4 or 5 checks, they get the reinforcement. Now, you're probably not going to do Legos after 4 or 5 little checks in, you know, in a short period of time. That would, you know, be a lot, but, you know, there's other reinforcers. You know, some kids like snacks, or, you know, breaks can be a reinforcer. So whatever it is, it's important to find out, you know, what your child wants. Let them be involved in coming up with what they're going to work for. That's really important. But, you know, a lot of kids, especially kids with autism, need, you know, need some of that external motivation. They're not necessarily intrinsically motivated to do their work and things like that. So that has helped, and that, you know, definitely can help. Let's see what else. Definitely, you know, talking, like addressing before we start our day, his needs. And so what I mean by that, like if he's hungry, you know, making sure he's fed. And these sound like silly little things, but especially for kids with autism, you know, if they're tired and they didn't sleep well the night before, you know, they're not going to sit and do their work, or at least my son. You know, or is going to be cranky, or if they're hungry, or, you know, if they have sensory needs. Like, I just bought one of those big exercise balls, you know, and I just leave it around, and, you know, I see him like bouncing on it, you know, and I know Margie before was talking about the trampoline, and, you know, kind of having some of those things around, some of the sensory tools available. So, you know, if he has that need, you know, and he needs to kind of get that out before sitting down. Because if he's dysregulated, he's not going to be able to sit and focus on his schoolwork. So kind of, you know, making sure those kinds of things, you know, those, you know, needs are met, you know, prior to actually starting and doing work. And, you know, sometimes we have to be flexible. If there was a night before he didn't sleep well, and, you know, he's kind of crabby, you know, we have to be flexible. Like, we're not like, okay, you have to do this. Sometimes, you know, or if he's frustrated with something, you know, maybe he needs a little break, and then we tack on those extra minutes later to his, you know, his math later. You know, we always have to be careful that we're not like reinforcing him avoiding a subject, you know, just because he's frustrated. But, you know, if he needs a break, we can always add on time somewhere else. So being flexible has definitely been very, very helpful for us. Let's see what else. A big thing that I think is very helpful is incorporating special interests and strengths into learning. So, you know, if your child is really into Legos, you know, somehow, you know, maybe on Pinterest, you find things that are involving, you know, Legos and writing, you know, or, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. We've, especially now because of COVID, we found so many virtual classes that are really, really good out there that I never saw before. You know, speaking of Legos, my son is very into Legos, and I found on this, it's called Open Tent Academy. He hasn't started it yet, but it's basically a STEM class and using Legos. And so he's going to be taking that. He's very into architecture. And I found over the summer, this group that's actually local, which I didn't even know about. There's Surf and Science, I think that's what it's called, Surf Skate Science or something like that. And they were doing virtual classes. And it was architecture. It was teaching the kids how to build like a skate ramp. And it was really, really interesting. And it was using science and math. And so they're learning, but he's learning about something that he's interested in. You know, so just kind of finding the things that they're good at and they're interested in, and, you know, looking out there and seeing, you know, what's out there and how you can incorporate that into their schooling. That definitely is very, very helpful, keeps their interest high. And if they're interested and motivated, you know, then they're going to do their work and be excited about it, which is ultimately, you know, what we're going for. Let's see what else. You know, other things for us, you know, this year, like, so I know most people who do homeschooling, the parent is the teacher. And so for me, unfortunately, I work during the day. So I'm not actually, for the most part, the teacher. So I'm the one who like develops all the curriculum, picks out what he's going to do, does all that, the planning. But then like previous years, we were lucky enough, my mother-in-law helped out a lot. This year, I hired a teacher virtually for writing in particular, because I know that's a tough subject for him. And then he's doing some virtual classes, and we also have behavior therapists that work with him and come into the home, and they assist with implementing some of the virtual classes as well. So that's been really, really helpful, having other people that you can kind of, if you're able to do that, you know, kind of rely on. I sort of had to, you know, given the situation, but it's, you know, it can be helpful. There's groups out there, like social media groups on Facebook that I've found that have been super helpful. Let's see, like South Florida Homeschool group. There's one called Homeschooling on the Spectrum. So there's, you know, and I've learned so much from all these other parents and things that they've gone through. People post questions, and I mean, there's so many resources out there, so many local ones too. So you can really like learn a lot from these groups. I feel like they're very, very helpful. You know, talking to other parents, that gives you a lot of information. You know, I've been lucky enough to have one or two friends who, you know, kind of went through this ahead of me. So I was able to kind of ask them things and learn a little bit about different curriculums. So that's super, super helpful. You know, right now, basically what we're doing like a bunch of like different things. So like I mentioned, we were doing some virtual classes. There's a program called Accelis that we're using right now for math and language arts. It seems really good so far. We just started it this year, but he likes it, so that's good. And then for like more of the fun classes, like the science and just like elective kind of classes, we've been using OutSchool, which those classes, I don't know if anyone's heard of it. I just learned about it in March when everything closed down. Really good classes, really engaging. Definitely been happy with every single class that he's done on there so far.
May I ask?
So that's another good one.
May I
Yes, of course.
I'm so sorry.
Of course.
OutSchool,
No, go.
OutSchool is online. It's a website or something.
Yes. So it's live classes though. So it's
okay. And what's the last one you mentioned? Accelis?
Accelis. It's spelled ACCELLUS. Now that one, the classes are not live, they're videos, but it's all like, like a virtual platform, I guess, and it saves all their work. They take tests on there that go with the videos. It's really good. I think That is everything that I wanted to mention.
Thank you so much for joining us for the support group. And we hope you guys got some valuable information about what the incredible speakers had shared with you. Our next month's meeting is going to be on October 6th, where we're going to be talking about inclusion in our schools and how to identify if your school is inclusionary. And we recognize that a lot of kids are not in school right now, but we want to give you guys a heads up on what you need to look for, especially as kids go back, because inclusion will definitely be a challenge. It'll be a challenge to advocate for. It'll be a challenge to obtain during this time of COVID and kids going back to school. So I encourage you guys to come on and listen to what we talk about. And we definitely, it is a support group, so we want your input. We want you guys to engage in the process of gaining more information that will hopefully help both you and your children as you move forward. Okay, so October 6th, 7 p.m. is our next meeting. If you're watching this on YouTube, just click that little bell so that you can get notifications about all of our new videos that come out. We hope that you enjoy those. And please let us know what's important to you. Let us know what it is that you need to just help you, through life and through COVID and education and jobs and just everything, so that we can bring speakers to you and topics to you during both this parent support group as well as Reach, where we reach for knowledge and we bring authors to you on a variety of different topics related to autism. Okay? All right, you guys take care. We'll see you again soon.